but independent and moderate voters in the swing states are going to decide who the next president is, I think.
I mean, when we think about Trump supporters, what differences have you seen in terms of those who are rallying behind him in this campaign versus previously? Have you seen more of an influx of individuals that are coming in? And
where really struck me was when I was at the RNC in Milwaukee, and Trump's base hates the media, they hate critics, and it's generally a pretty hostile environment. I've been to other Trump rallies and events. And at the RNC, there was much less of that. They were riding very high at the time because they had arrived. They were no longer the outsiders storming the gates. They have acquired power and are fairly certain how they want to now use it. And so I think there's more a sense of arrival and certainty among his supporters about what they'll do with the mandate he has given them. And I think that, in my perspective, that's a dangerous thing, because I think it's a profoundly anti-democratic and intolerant movement.
What's happened to the GOP, the Republican Party that my father grew up with since World War II, and that I grew up with? Is that gone forever?
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest around traditional Republicans, and traditional defined by, I think people who believed in judicial restraint, robust national security, fiscal probity, et cetera, et cetera. And I think those are all wonky bread and butter policy issues that have been replaced by movement, culture issues defined around gender, race, I think avoidance and engagement with the outside world beyond the borders of the United States, and paranoia about the other. And it's proven to be a very effective path to power, so I think it's going to be with us for some time.
I mean, can you speak to what aspects of what Trump stands for speaks to certain pockets of the Republican community, whether that be the affluent and finances?
Well, I mean, I think there are, within both parties, there are multifaceted members of both parties. I think for working class Republicans, Trump is a guardian against demographic and economic changes that they feel threatens their well-being and their standing in the world, socially and economically. I think for affluent Republicans, there's always been this idea that taxes wind up being pickpocketing more than anything else, because they don't need the help from the government that other members of society do. You can have a debate around the virtues of that argument, but I think that's where they stand. And to a certain extent, I think they're willing to digest anything Trump says or does, as long as he does that for them.
So there is some concern there of, I think, some note out there in society that if former President Trump were to win again in this November, how he'll perform, how he'll behave once in office. And there are some concerns and fears about that behavior. How do you think that is as a risk, perhaps?
Well, I mean, I've never believed that Donald Trump is a strategist. I think it's a mistake to have the word strategy in the same sentence as his name. But I think that he is a profoundly emotional and is frankly sensationalistic man, and he prides himself in that kind of emotional connection with his voters. And he's clearly been on a revenge tour. You don't have to be particularly insightful to know what he's planning on doing. He wants to weaponize the Department of Justice and the military against perceived enemies, American citizens, and critics. That is against the Constitution and is against the standards we've all lived with. I think he is intent on doing that. I think he wants to withdraw the U.S. from the world, whether that's in East Asia, in the Middle East, or in Eastern Europe. And I think that poses threats for national security.
Have you noticed any differences in terms of tolerance in this election as we think about the controversy that comes out of rhetoric from Trump? Have you noticed that people have become a bit more tolerant of some of the controversial things that he says than they may have been before?
You know what I think is that this has always been with us. This is a country that was founded in a revolution. We fought a civil war to preserve the unity of the country. We have had all sorts of historical grotesqueries against indigenous peoples, slaves, women, et cetera, and have tried to work those out. It's one of the strengths of the United States, is that we've tried to work through those differences. Few countries globally have been able to. But I think all of the animosities and ugly thoughts that attend to those moments have always been with us. And I think the difference in the Trump moment is it's been made transparent by social media, and he's made it okay for us to entertain the worst angels of our nature. And I think that he's challenging us to really examine what the United States is about and where we want to take it.